unbelievable. This is about the most raw emotion you are going to get out of a post game. Literally seconds after watching the 49ers blow the game, Moody misses the kick after a shaky final drive to get them in scoring position and go win the damn thing. This is it. This is the rawest post game in the business. Guaranteed. We got so much to talk about, and we're going to talk about it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, this is about to be the most raw post game you may ever get, seconds after the 49ers' first loss of the season. Moody misses the game-winning field goal. Should have been easy. There wasn't a lot of wind, if any, no rain. How are you feeling right now in this moment, David? This is wild, man. We just watched the game together backstage, waiting for it to finalize. Yeah. And you're like, this is it. This is what you get a third round pick for. Mm-hmm. He has to make this kick. And I'm like, he's fine. He's money Moody. We're good to go. Absolute opposite. You've got to be freaking kidding me.
Yeah, bad things happen. Games happen. Losses happen. In the grand scheme of things, you look back on the season, you kind of hit into a perfect storm of situations. But there's going to be things we talk about today that just objectively critique. The sky is not falling. However, you're doing this conflated with injuries too. Moody, I think he's a good kicker, right? I also know that there's rookie kickers that haven't missed this year as well. It happens, right? But he missed two big ones today when Kyle gave him the opportunity to make it happen. And it's 54-41. You could quibble about whether maybe the Niners should have tried to get a little bit closer, but I'm sorry, a 34 or 41 yard field. It's not. This is right in the wheelhouse for this guy. No wind, no rain, field's not wet, ball's dry. Whatever. At the same time, I'm actually not putting this game on Jake Moody completely at all. Not even completely. He's far down the totem pole of who deserves playing for this game.
I mean, yeah, but
no. I'm with you. I'm with you. You drafted a kicker in the third round. I expect you to make a 41-yard field goal when it counts. Like the guy that has all the gifs with I got ice in my veins. Okay, well, get that. Because in a game that the Niners really had their back against the wall, a game where the offense played probably one of the worst offensive performances you'll see in the NFL all year. We're going to go back to it. I'm going to corroborate that with stats. It's not just the eye test. That was one of the worst offensive performances you will see by any team in the NFL all year. And the Cleveland Browns are a really good defense. But guess what? So are the 49ers. And they both played in the same conditions. Cowboys, good defense, 42-10. Absolutely. So yeah, the kicker, you spend that kind of capital, you expect him to make one of those kicks. That's all he needed, just one.
Yeah, and the first one was understandable. It really was, especially after the Browns kicker had missed his. It's okay,
I agree.
Long kick. The weather at that time was not the best. You get it. Yeah. That last one, you can't have it. I mean, oh my gosh. And it was not. That's the thing, David, is this game went from being the best worst case scenario, essentially, where you lose some players. Purdy doesn't play great. The offense doesn't play great in the second half. It looks about as bad as it can possibly look. Yeah. Yet you get out of there with a win. You prove that you are the team that everybody thinks you are. And you fall short. It's gut-wrenching, man. It's absolutely gut-wrenching.
It's gut-wrenching, but I think we're going to get to it. Make no mistake. This game had a lot of people that you could look at. And I'm not saying the sky is falling, but 100% this game is on number 13, Brock Purdy. This is, in his young career, the worst game he's played. And there were so many things that, there was pressure, there were certain situations, but we've seen him deal with that more effectively than he has today in the past. We're going to get to more of the specifics. I get it. I'm not a pro kicker. I'm not I'm not. I don't care about kickers. But, did Jake need to get one of those? Yes, but the quarterback play today was really bad. And yeah, we had guys go down, but remember, Cleveland's also dealing with no Nick Chubb, right? No Deshaun Watson. I think we can both say that.
But Batonio, who's their best offensive lineman, out.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. It's like
No excuses. There's literally no excuses to lose that game for the whole team. I mean, penalties. Cleveland did everything they could to lose that game as well. They literally did everything. They had more penalties than the 49ers. They had more turnovers than the 49ers. Like, they did everything to lose that game. They came into the game extremely injured. The 49ers certainly had some injuries of their own, but there's just no excuses to lose that game. And yes, Moody missing the kick is very, very frustrating. But I think what you're getting at is, and I just titled it, Purdy looked human today. Like, Purdy looked human is the way that I'm going to put it. We have to remember that he's still young in his career. It didn't look good, David. When I say human, I'm just saying, like, everybody's got the Brock Purdy's a bot. He's AI. He's just automatic. And it's like, no, things happen, man. We're way too early in a career to just start making things as if they're so. These things are bound to happen.
Sure.
Young 100%. Player. Like, he's going to face adversity and he's not going to look great for stretches in his career. He is a human.
Yep. And I think that's important to mention. Like, it's okay to say, so we're going to do this. You live tweet too. It's like, you're like, oh, you're being emotional. So no, I'm actually tweeting like what's happening right now. Now, if I wouldn't say like, yeah, this guy is absolute dog water. He'll never be out to anything. My God, why would anybody draft him even with 260? Like, that would be like patently ridiculous. I think that he did look human and he looked,
he didn't look good. It was
he looked so awful these games do happen. I completely agree. I think he got put out of whack with his pieces out, but I also think what this game is gonna put the pressure on him. Particularly, Debo being out is one thing. They've been able to survive Debo being out for different. If CMC is out, and then you're also really relying on Kittle even more than Kittle was barely targeted all game. I think he have one catch, maybe.
Like
the other one, he drew a holding penalty or a pass interference. Other than that, I think that was it again. After getting 3 tutties against the Cowboys, you're going to probably, because Debo's out, another thing, like, you're going to bring him in to be the blocker, to be the guy that's helping out mid kivets, right? Like, you're going to be doing this is going to be a test. And by the way, the Minnesota Vikings aren't that good of a team. They're missing their best player as well. Their defense is really not good. And they're going to be on the road in an environment where, I will say this about Viking fans, I'm going to be there next week. It can be very loud. It's a good fan base, and they are going to be looking at this team that's vulnerable with one loss, and they're going to be pouring it on. And the Vikings still have a guy named Kirk Cousins on the other side. And so I know we're going to get there. I just think that Purdy being human, that's true. But one thing that Purdy, it goes beyond just being human. We had sailing throws, and we're not talking about sailing throws that could have been one-on-one balls, 50-50-ish, or like, hey, that receiver's going to still have to make a play on the ball. We're talking about schemed open, 10 yards of separation, empty spot in a zone, busted coverage. Those have to be made. And so when you look back to the CMC play that he overthrew, that was the game, right? When you look back to the ones that fluttered to George Kittle, that was the game. Ayuk dropping one, though, before from Purdy. They're just too many self-inflicted wounds here. And the defense played, honestly, really well, given the circumstances. This is a clunker. I mean, there's no other way around it. Like, Purdy not only looked human, he looked like a guy, to be fair, to his guy who I love, Brock. I really do. He looked like a guy that was drafted in the 7th round today. So it's going to be up to him to really rebound, because the pressure doesn't get easier.
Yeah, I mean, most certainly that what did they have going into that final drive? Was it 1 yard of offense in the second half?
Yeah. Purdy had 1 yard passing going into that drive in the second half. Like 1 for 5 for 1 yard. What?
What's crazy is the first half was a little rough, and I had tweeted out, I said, hey, it's hard to play quarterback in the rain. What a surprise. The only 2 times that you've really seen Purdy look quote unquote human was the first half in the playoffs against Seattle and the first quarter in the playoffs versus Seattle and the first half of this game, and it was in inclement weather. It was raining both times. So it's like, okay, like that's something he has to work on. I get it. But then in the second half, the rain stops. The wind was still there a little bit and it got worse. And then the wind died down and it still wasn't good. So I don't know what to make of it overall. Here's what I'm going to say. And it's what I always said, which is I'm not going to get too high and I'm not going to get too low. I'm just not. I'm not going to kill him for his play. For as bad as it was for a big chunk of that game, they still had a chance to win. So, you know, certainly I'm frustrated with Moody. But the game, the offense couldn't execute in the second half. Quite frankly, at best, the offense earned a chance at 3 points in the second half. If Demo doesn't get the pick, they don't score 7. Like the offense would have done nothing in the second half. Nothing.
I hear you, and this is where I think some people are like, oh, we're ditto heads. We always agree. Like I actually do. That a quarterback for your team that's an MVP candidate has to be a guy that has moments throughout a game that says, "I'm putting you on my back." Okay. There were none of those moments. I saw in the game today. I'm seeing tweets right now that say he made all he got them in position at the end of the. Were you watching the same drive that I was? Like,
right.
A dropped interception to Greg Newsome, ball behind, like throwing to a wide open receiver with no pressure. Like those are the things you're supposed to do. That's great. We don't sit there and say, well, that nothing of import there, but no, that's not something where look, the quarterback play today, all they had to do to win this game today is we're talking C level quarterbacking. Okay. We're talking just like league average, baby. We're talking like nothing special, nothing super high, nothing super low. We're talking Jimmy Garoppolo. Okay. That's what you needed today against a good defense. And it didn't happen. And Kyle, this is the thing. I saw people like ragged on Kyle for conservative play calling. Then when you give your MVP candidate the ball in his hands on first, second, and third down, people are like, what are you doing? You didn't run the ball. I'm like, he's trusting his quarterback. You said you guys have been waiting for Kyle to trust his quarterback for years. And yeah, the offensive line wasn't perfect, but the intentional groundings, the other, like these killed the team today. And so, yeah, Brock, I'm glad. I'm going to say this. This sounds crazy. This sounds like it's hindsight is 2020. I feel like something like this had to happen. We were talking about last week when the first loss would be. I never won a loss, but I hope that this wakes this team up. I hope this puts a fire in their belly that says this can't really happen in this way. Losing games is fine. Losing games in the way that they lost today is embarrassing. And so for a team that like had the crown as like the juggernaut of the NFL last week, they looked anything but today. And so I'm just saying.
The 196 says it was raining. Here's the thing, and I said this on Twitter. First of all, would you say that the first half was better from Purdy or the second half? Because the first half it was raining, the second half it was not. Right? Like
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, but PJ Walker connected with Amari Cooper for a 70-yard play down. Was it raining then? I mean, what are we doing with this? Like, I get that like a ball can be wet. We're not talking about a downpour. We're not talking about Soldier Field week 1 last year. We're talking about like just a couple rain showers here. It's football. Like, I get they can make it inclement weather. I get it can make it harder, but PJ Walker was playing in the same conditions and was being much more efficient with that offense and was going up against a great defense. And yeah, he threw a couple picks, right? But Brock threw one, and he probably should have thrown at least one other, right? So PJ Walker too. I mean, but if we're using PJ Walker as the bar for how we're saying, hey, all quarterbacks, like, come on, man, this is an XFL legend over here, third stringer.
XFL legend. Yeah, I mean, I certainly want to be clear. Like the last thing I'm going to do, I'm not piling on. Like I'm just not going to do it. But you have to call it how you see it. Purdy just wasn't good today. He wasn't, you know, did at the end, did the team get in scoring position and did he hit some throws there at the Absolutely. But he also could have had a pick and he did miss Jennings on an out pattern. Like even when it was good, it wasn't great. Like there were things there, and it is what it is. Like Purdy is going to be fine. He's a young player. He gets to go through these things. He does. But this thought or this lore that he's perfect and he's this and he's that, and oh my gosh, we got the a top 3 quarterback. It's like maybe we do, but not yet. Like let's like this is the first real time that adversity has been there, and it wasn't great. It's okay. It's okay to say those things.
The sky is not falling. I still believe that he's going to rebound, but I also was wrong all day saying that I thought he was going to remedy it in this game.
Oh, bro, I kept tweeting out, okay, they're going to score this drive. Like Purdy's going to bounce back. Nope. Okay, Purdy's in, and then finally, like 3 drives in after saying that, I go, okay, I'm just going to STFU because clearly I'm wrong and I don't want to be the reason. Like I'm not jinxing it. So just go do your thing, Purdy. Go score. Go do whatever you got to do. It's like, gosh, dang, man. Oh my gosh. All right, we got a ton of super chats to get through.
Okay.
Jason Letts says, did the O-line miss the flight? They weren't in Cleveland. Oh, bro, that's another thing. The whole everything was sloppy about this game on both sides of Cleveland was a disaster. The 49ers were a disaster. Kyle, they kept talking about it. Oh, Kyle wants a tough game. He wants some adversity. Well, you got it, Kyle. You got it. Be careful what you wish for. Nathan says, bring back Gold. Moody is terrible. Horrible game all around. Terrible play calling. Instead of running the ball 3 straight passes, Kyle.
Well, I have a question about that. What would running the ball have done in that situation? Like,
I don't know.
I don't. I'm struggling to understand. Like, it wasn't with 1 minute to go in the game. You're talking about there was like 3.5 minutes for like whatever. Like they still needed to get down the field. They still needed to matriculate the ball down the field. Like. And I'm sorry, like, isn't that what we want if we have an MVP caliber quarterback, the ball in his hands? Because, by the way, the run was getting stuck. CMC got hurt. We're going to talk about that.
So, yeah.
And that's a whole thing that's like the cloud that's hanging over this is not only do we have all this, but we got attrition going on today. And so I find it. Hey, Nathan, I'm not trying to like ragging, but like I gotta push back a little bit on this when you're looking at the guy like. If we're saying Purdy's as good as people say he is, we cannot get mad at Kyle for that. Like Kyle on previous drives, hey, here's 1st and 25. What does Purdy do? Slides down at the line of scrimmage on 1st and 25. 2nd and 25, run play. 3rd and 24, run play. That to me is problematic and gutless. That to me says like we're not even going to try. We're not going to try to draw a penalty. I don't understand that. But like putting the ball in your playmaker's hands because CMC's out, so Purdy's supposed to be the MVP. I don't think I can't quibble with that. I can't be mad at Kyle for asking Purdy to take care of the game for him.
Yeah, and it's not like if they get 1 first down, the game's over. They would have needed multiple there, right? So you can't, you got to go for it. And Kyle's trusted Purdy all season long, and rightfully so. And we've talked about that. Oh my gosh, it's great that he trusts Purdy over. He didn't trust Jimmy in these situations, and even in a bad game, he still trusted his quarterback. And I don't have an issue with that. Rob Schneider, nice, good to see you. Says Kyle got hit in his feelings. What the F, man? This is on the O. Yeah, it was definitely on the O. However you want to slice it. If you want to get mad at Kyle, you want to get mad at the offensive line, you want to get mad at Ayuk for his 1 drop. If whatever. How Purdy, like either way, that's what it is. All right. Flav says was completely the game I was worried about. Yeah, good call there. Terrible calls, messy, just bad. Gold missed his share of regular season kicks, to be frank. But you have a chance for Purdy yourself, the team, etc. Terrible, terrible miss. Yeah, it was a bad miss. But frankly, this goes back to the conversation we were just having where the 49ers had a lead that they didn't, frankly, earn on offense. The defense put them in the position to have that lead. After things went about as bad as they did, Purdy and that offense have got to move the ball there and put the game away. It should have never gotten to that point, ever.
And the defense got put in bad situations on something. Really, and look, I don't blame it, and I'm not going to blame officiating for this game. And like they should have been off the field when Gibson hit Elijah Moore. Like, what are you supposed to do? He's thinking he's trying to dislodge a ball, right? It's bang bang. These referees act like these guys like
refs in the league right now are just terrible all around. It's bad.
Greg Blandino said that absolutely was the wrong call. And so my question is, why on earth are we not able to booth review personal fouls? Like, college does it for targeting, right? Why on earth can we not start doing these quickly, expedite the call, say, hey, don't put it in the officiating crew's hands. Put it in New York's hands, have the convo, look at this, say, Blandino, or whoever it is up top, what do you think? Yay or nay? You're the guy. Make the call. It's not hard. Same thing I would say for the fumble from PJ Walker. We could talk about that later, but like, I just feel like the defense gets kind of ragged because it got down, they give the lead. No, the defense did everything they could. They got some shitty calls, and I would say Steve Wilkes, to me, he did everything possible in his defense to keep this team in this game. And sure. Bravo for the 49ers defense.
They absolutely crushed it. Brother Bob says Purdy equals buns, Moody equals bigger buns, Kyle Shanahan, what the F? Yeah, I mean, played like buns versus, you got to clarify that for me, Brother Bob. Are you saying played like buns or is buns? Like, again, I'm not going to get too high and I'm not going to get too low. I wasn't willing to crown him after all the stuff. I'm certainly not going to be like, yeah, he sucks. He'll never be good. Like, I'm not going that. I'm just not going to do it. But also, I want to say this, and I said this on Twitter, people are talking about inclement weather, and that's fine, but you have to remain consistent. Somebody goes, well, nobody was willing to give our old quarterback in week 1 any pass last year when there was inclement weather. And I said, hey, you can't fight fire with fire. Whatever your thoughts were in that game, you should remain consistent. If you felt like weather was an issue then you should feel like it was an issue, at least in the first half today, not the second half, but in the first half. Yes. And if you didn't, then don't today. Like, just be consistent. That's all I ask from people, is try to be consistent. That's it.
Well, simple. I mean, to me, I think we're obviously the ball fell out of his hands and he recovered his own fumble. Clearly, the ball was slick. That doesn't mean that on every single play that the
wasn't
ball
that first half though in the rain. That's what I'm saying. In the first half, it was definitely raining. Yeah,
but it doesn't. No, second quarter. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that just because there's any type of wet conditions that the ball is always like a completely untenable situation for the offense. Like, you can pass the ball in some light rain. It is not impossible. That was not a downpour. It was not a gale force wind. Honestly, the winds had actually died down. It was supposed to be harder straight in. I was wrong when I texted about Moody missing the 54-yarder. At that time, it was like calm 6-mile-per-hour wind. Like, it wasn't, it wasn't that bad of conditions. It just wasn't.
No. Not in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, the wind had completely died down, and there was no rain the whole second half. In fact, I looked at the Doppler. I looked at the Doppler at halftime, and there was no rain in the forecast until about 5:30 p.m., which it still is not on the East Coast, by the way. And there was no rain in the forecast and the Doppler and on TV. Like, there was no rain in the second half. It was fine. So Marco says it came down to Purdy and he came up short. Yeah, I mean, sure. I get it. I mean, I get it. Jamaican Boy says, what are we playing? 7-4? If the Browns have it on. Huh?
What are we paying?
Oh, what are we paying? Okay,
74. I think Burford.
Yeah. I don't know. If
Moon.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was talking about Deshaun. Either way, if Browns had Deshaun, most of those on the run throws would have been made on this coverage instead of grounded by Walker. I agree. Brock had open receivers and overthrew and missed. There was a lot. Again, Brock didn't play great. We talked about that, but I can point to a lot of other things that happened today. It's football. GTC Real says Kyle play calling was too cute today. Shaking my head. I don't know. There was no point in that game where I had any frustration with his play calling. Again, when I come on these post games, I try to remember what I felt in the moment. And in the moment of that game, I was never like, man, Kyle, what the F? That was just me, though.
Well, I think that's the thing, though. But Brock, the only quibble I had, like I said, was maybe being a little too conservative. But that's not cute. I don't think they ever did anything where they were reverse flea flicker, kind of like crazy ass triple reverse, like whatever. Like he played it pretty vanilla. I don't think there was anything.
Yeah, short week traveling across, across country, like in inclement weather in the first half. Like, that's what you should do. Okay, there's a lot of super chats, and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. But all day, every day, Kim kind of is tailoring into the next point, and so I'm going to bring that up. All day, every day, Kim says this is what Brock looks like without 1,000 weapons, average, and no one can deny it. Well, that's what he looked like today. I don't know if that's what he'll always look like, but do you think, David, that this is the proof that CMC is this offense?
I don't think it's quite that simple, but I absolutely think that it is a valid assertion, or
okay, let me be more blunt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces. You have 11 players.
Sure.
Everybody contributes. But is it CMC or is it Purdy that is the catalyst of this offense? And was that kind of proven today with the way that the game went?
It's 100% CMC. And I will say this. I went on Ryan Hensley's show on Friday, and I actually said that based on Purdy's play, I had shifted from like doing 100% CMC as the MVP of the offense to really validating what Purdy was doing. But that was also, I made the stipulation of it, what he was doing in the context of what he has at his disposal, which includes Kyle Shanahan. And it still was like, and I think Brock can rebound. I will say, after today, I don't know if it confirms anything that we didn't already know. If I'm going with my gut, though, if I'm going to tell you I really feel in the moment, yeah, the CMC injury has me nervous. The CMC injury has me nervous that this kind of hashtag this is the year feeling that a lot of people have been having, including myself, is a little a bit of a mirage. And I'm not saying it is, but I don't think that this team, if you lose CMC, I think this team, this offense changes dramatically. We know this from last year when he joined the team. We saw what happened when he was there. If CMC can't play, the pressure it puts defenses under, right, is incalculable. I mean, it is calculable to him. You could look at like the different what the offense does with or without him, but it's you can't put a value on that for the Niners. Like he's that valuable. Yeah, this offense is going to struggle without CMC. I will say that. And I think that I'm not saying the sky is falling. Struggle relative to what they've been doing. But now Brock Purdy is going to be put in situations where all of the expectations, all of the pressure, all the talk, it's going to be on his shoulders. If CMC is out, if Debo is out, right? And then that chatter is going to start to – so he's got to – that's what you pay. Well, he doesn't get paid the big bucks, but that's what you're an MVP candidate, man. You got to like water off the duck's back. And I think he can do that. But do I think the offense is going to be as productive? Absolutely not. In today's game, regardless of a Browns defense being legit, completely showed that they're going to have some struggles.
I think for me, when I look at this offense without CMC and thinking long term, I don't. First of all, we don't know how serious the injury is. I mean, he could be back next week. We do know that he tried to gut it out. He came in for a play, ran the ball. I think there was a penalty that called it back, and then he was out immediately and went to the locker room. So he tried to fight through it. He couldn't do it. Luckily for the 49ers, if we're just looking ahead, they have the Vikings, which is not a good defense. They should be able to put points up on the board. I think losing CMC mid-game versus a good defense is different than knowing you don't have CMC all week as you prepare going against a bad defense. So I would expect that even without CMC, if it's a week or whatever, that they figure out a way to put up points next week against a bad Minnesota Vikings defense. And then after that, you have the bye. So the hope is, even if he has to miss a game.
No, they don't have the bye.
It's Bengals.
The Bengals.
You're right. It's Bengals. Oh, I'm tripping. You're right. It's them, Bengals, and what? You're right. You're right. Well, that would be a whole different game than a bye. Well, either way, let's put it this way. Then you hope that you have Minnesota. You can fight through that one regardless, because it is a team without Jefferson, and it is a bad defense. You have all week to prepare for them. You should be able to go out and win that game, and then hopefully CMC's back, I guess.
The Vikings today had 220 total yards against a Justin Fields-less team for most of the game.
Yep.
Obviously, Justin Fields doesn't play defense.
For
the
sure.
Vikings mustered up barely 4 yards of play.
Yeah.
They are not. They're trying
Without
to lose.
Jefferson, they're
Right.
whole. Yeah.
I get it, but that's also with Kirk Cousins, and the Bears
Yeah.
defense is not great.
Yeah.
I get that. I also think that going into it's not the Dome anymore; it's US Bank Stadium. I'm hoping the CMC can come back. I have faith that they're going to rebound. I have faith they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. But I also, we've said it's a young career for Purdy, right? So we don't really. A lot of people have been talking about this, and I don't know how much I've either embraced, dismissed, or even listened completely to that. But this idea that how much adversity has Purdy seen? You could talk about the Seattle game, maybe after he had some rib pain going into that game in December, right before Christmas. Is that it? I mean, honestly, like I'm not saying that Purdy isn't to credit for having that for like making sure that he didn't have those nervous moments, but like the Cowboys game in the playoffs, tight game. But
Raiders game.
What?
Raiders game at the end of the game there. Yeah, Raiders game.
Yeah. This is going to be though. None of those games did Purdy have to go without his weapons.
Yeah,
and I think that if they're missing Deebo and CMC, he's going to be in prime time on Monday Night Football against another quarterback that everybody says can't play on prime time. And you cannot tell me that Kirk Cousins is not going to want to, with the coach that he loves, Kyle Shanahan, go out there and duel it out. It's going to be an interesting game now. I'm going to be there, and all of a sudden it feels like a lot more pressure.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with CMC and Deebo. Deebo, I don't even want to guess on who's more likely to miss it. Here's what I will say, going back to the original question, is CMC the offense? For me, this game validates what I already thought, which is three things. One, I never said Brock Purdy was bad. I never said he was bad. I've said he was good, and I've praised him all the way through, right? Yes, I did prefer a different player, but I never once said he was bad. I never rooted against him, none of those things. So for me, when I said that, hey, I think CMC is the catalyst to this offense. So two things. One, I think CMC is a catalyst to this offense. And two, don't force anybody to just like give everything to him as if it's already been earned. Like, let people take their time in evaluating him long term and what he may be. That's all I've ever asked for. And I feel like hopefully after today, like people will understand exactly where I've been coming from. It's not, again, I haven't piled on him today. I haven't said anything bad or anything like that. I think he's going to be fine. Mentally, I've always liked how he bounces back. I expect him to bounce back just fine from this. Hell, all day, like I said, I was tweeting out, he's going to bounce back. It's going to be fine. They're going to score. It's going to be fine. And it never happened.
It didn't happen though.
But it didn't. But it's just one game in the grand scheme of things over the course of a career. But just allow people to be different than you. If you want to jump on and say, hey, it's this and that and next Montana and top 3 and blah, go ahead. I'm not policing how you fan or how you feel. I'm just saying there are some people like myself that can like him, but also say, hey, I just want to see more. And that's all I've ever wanted. And I feel like now I've got that breathing room a little bit to be like, okay, is it cool? Like, can I, or no, is that not okay still? I don't know.
I don't think you do have the breathing room, to be quite honest. I'm already seeing people that I respect, like all of the TL, like just saying Brock Purdy put them in the situation to succeed at the end and the team fell apart. I'm like, the psychology of like, look, I like Brock. I was out there like, I'm going to go buy Brock jersey. I honestly, I am so excited to cheer for Brock Purdy. It is so exciting as a 49ers fan. I've never been more excited in years. Okay. This idea though, that every time an offense does anything that goes down the field, that you immediately credit the quarterback as like just the catalyst and the engine for all success is patently ridiculous when you're unwilling to acknowledge all of the other things that went in throughout the game. And I think that we have to keep it a buck here. Like this is, if these injuries if they linger, if you think that this offense is going to keep humming at the level or even close to a level that it was, and people could say, well, yeah, it's an injury. You can't expect, well, then, okay. But then you answer your question that you asked, Jesse, is CMC the offense? And to me, like, I'm sorry, like they've got guys who can run the ball. They're not CMC, right? Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell, they can run the ball, right? Are they CMC? Hell no, right? Who's the answer outside of Debo? Ayuk flash. Ayuk dropped a big play today too. Let's be real.
Yeah,
like,
for sure
Ayuk dropped a
he did.
60-yard touchdown pass. A dime from Purdy, an absolute dime. And who knows
Great
if that
throw.
play,
Great throw.
if that play connects. I think at the time was it 7-0 still. I think it was.
I don't remember.
It's 14 zip. 14 zip, baby, and you know Brock's feeling good. Yeah. So I get it. Sky's not falling, but pressure's on now. Because the Eagles right now, they're going up against a great defense too in New York and the Jets. They got a 7-zip lead. It's a non-conference loss, so it doesn't go into the conference
sure.
seedings,
as far as tiebreakers. As long as you can beat Philly later, you would still have a tiebreaker. But
it's a loss. And I'll just say this: Vikings on the road. I don't give a shit. If you're on the road, it's on the road, and they have weapons. I'm not scared of them, but without CMC and Debo, I'm starting to get
they better be able to score points on the. I don't care. I don't care.
But you have
that defense is awful.
Yeah, you have that game, but then you have the Bengals who just eked out over the Seahawks today. You have the bye, then you go to Jacksonville.
Yeah,
and I know Trevor Lawrence got hurt today, and I don't know what the severity of that injury is. Then you got home for Tampa, who they're fighters. They're not a great team, but they're fighters. Then you go on the road to Seattle. Then you go on the road to Philly. This is not going to be a super easy run here.
Yeah.
And so this is going to test them and let's see what this team really is.
All right, let's crank through these bad boys. We got 25 of them. So
oh my.
808 Niner says O-line sucks. No more excuses. The right side is garbage. They can't stop the run. Can't stop the run. And Purdy missed so many easy throws. If we got to go to Philly, we lose. Yeah, I'm just not willing to say that yet either. I'm just not willing to be definitive after a loss today. Listen, today's loss sucked. And there was a lot of things that didn't go right.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the but here in a few. Brother Bob says, really need to sign Gold. That's 2 missed field goals. Well, that's one thing that I will say is Moody, for the first time in 3 games today, actually had to kick field goals. And it didn't look great.
Nope.
So, didn't look great. Because all he had been kicking was extra points for the last few weeks. The Niners are not the best team in the trenches. They are good on D, not on O. This type of game versus the Browns or Philly, you lose. They need redirection and both run and pass to win versus the top of the trenches in the rain.
If
CMC plays, they win today, though. Like if he finishes the game, they probably win somehow. Cryptic says this was the true trap game. We can blame that hit on Gibson, which ended the game pretty much. It's one game very early. Now the season starts. We can't blame it on Gibson. What are we talking about?
Gibson's a legal hit.
It was a legal hit. It was a bad call. Like, definitely not blaming Gibson.
And they still held him to a field goal after that.
There's not one person to blame. Like everybody does. There's a lot of blame to go around. It's what if this or what if that? It's
wait a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
What about Robbie Gould? Like, are we like? I get he's met. Jake Moody's actually made a lot of field goals this year already.
Yeah,
like he hasn't played that poorly, but like we act like Robbie Gould is like automatic too, like completely. I don't know. Like I just feel like.
What I worry about with Moody is he doesn't have the long career that somebody like Gould has. If Gould had missed those kicks today, I wouldn't be worried about Gould going forward. Are you confident in Moody going forward after missing that type of kick? It goes back to what happened in the preseason, which was looked awful. Then he got injured and then he came out and kicked great and it was awesome. So he may do that again, but it's still so early that these types of misses to win games, actual real games, not preseason games, can haunt a young player. Any kicker, really. We've seen kickers get the yips out of nowhere. So I would feel a lot better about Gould missing that kick and him being fine through the rest of the season than I do a rookie that I just don't know. And I'm not saying he won't be fine. I'm not confident that he will be.
Well, yeah, and I don't think the offensive line too, like people talk about how they were, it might have been a couple super chats, but yeah, they didn't play well today. And we have to go back and watch the All-22. But, last game against the Cowboys, Purdy was plenty clean against, and I'm not PFF is God kind of person, but,
yeah,
Lawrence and and Micah are one of their top 3 graded guys, and you could say, "Oh, Micah's not an edge." He basically is, right? Like they neutralized him. Like they were able to do it. Like so, I'm not saying the offensive line can also rebound too. This Cleveland front seven is really, really, really good, and their secondary is good. Like Newsome and Denzel Ward are like studs.
Very good.
So I get all that, and I get all that. But the Niners had so many opportunities. This is the thing that bothers me is that you cannot say that they didn't have opportunities to go and they say, well, yeah, Moody missed a field goal. Totally. What happens if they would have needed more? What happens if the Cleveland gets in the end zone? Like, were we confident the Niners were doing that all day? The only other time they scored other than the first drive was on the short field because Demo Lenore had that big return on the interception. Everything else was just nothing going.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? Like the defense held the 3 after the offense who had the ball and had a chance to put the game away didn't. The defense did hold the 3 regardless of how they got there, bad penalty, what have you. They held the 3, but you're right. If they score a touchdown on that drive, are we confident that the 49ers go score a touchdown after the way No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They had their chances. They had their multiple chances, and there was multiple reasons why they lost. Adam says, Jesse, I really like the channel on the inside. I appreciate you. I tagged this earlier. I also tagged this earlier, and this was funny. He says, Last Second Sports, is it fair to say that it's Will and Jada Pinkett's fault? I don't even know what that means, but I think it's very funny. Daza says, this is exactly what I wanted to see. Purdy playing against an elite defense without CMC. This won't be good enough against the Eagles. Okay.
No, it won't be.
I mean, hopefully though, and I agree. I did want, there was the curiosity in me that wanted to see it, but not at the expense of like CMC being hurt. I just wanted to see it a couple years down the road when CMC was just no longer here. And, but whatever. And let's hope, if CMC plays and they play Philly, they definitely can win that game. Justin Lomker said it last week on your channel, Trap Game. Yeah, a lot. Listen, there was a few of you that did. I didn't believe it, just mainly because I didn't think that the Cleveland offense could move the ball enough to make a difference. What I didn't account for is that the 49ers offense couldn't move the ball enough to make a difference either. Yeah. I guess I didn't see that one coming. Steph says the whole team looked down when Kyle didn't adjust the game plan. Hey, I'm not telling you guys how to feel. I'm just saying, like, for me, I didn't feel the game plan was an issue from Kyle. At least in the moment. I didn't.
The only thing that you can borderline say emotional, when I tweeted out when I felt like Kyle ran draw plays of 2nd and 3rd and long, and I get that it's not meant to like convert all the time, but you give your team a chance. I feel like that was throwing in the towel a little bit in a way that I felt like he started to not trust him as well, that he went right back to him. And so other than that, I can't say other than a couple quibbles about setting up Moody on the 54-yarder. I don't think you can really put that. Yeah, there were times where I felt like Kyle was being conservative. But I don't think
I guess my question to those, and Wolf Life has one as well. And again, I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm just saying I didn't feel that in the moment. My question back though is, okay, so the problem is Kyle wasn't great today either. So what was the solution? Because let's just kind of peel back the onion a little bit. CMC's out. Debo's out. For the first time in his whole career, like Purdy just didn't have it. Purdy's had small moments where he didn't have it. Like I said, a first quarter against Seattle. There was a couple, the first drive against the Giants. Like we're talking small moments where Purdy just wasn't on, but he always figured out a way to bounce back. That was not the case today. And in fact, again, when the weather wasn't great, I figured, okay, it's the weather. It'll be fine. Second half weather calms down. It completely stops raining, and it got worse. It looked worse. So what was Kyle going to change? Like for the first time, maybe he can't trust his quarterback the way that he wanted to. Not that that's Purdy's fault, but in this game, he just didn't have his stuff. So if you can't trust the quarterback and you got 2 main weapons out, like what was supposed to change with the game plan? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's, I think the 49ers could have had, like you said, Moody hits it and ends it. It's like, okay, we dodged a bullet. But they didn't, right? It is what it is. I think that though Kyle's going to be, anyway, we'll go. You keep going through these super chats.
Yeah. RS says Purdy gave the team a chance to win at the end, but it shouldn't have came down to that. He missed too many passes today. Let's see him bounce back. And that's exactly where I'm at. Flav says all great QBs have bad games. 1000% Flav. Yes. The best still do what they need to give the team a chance to win at the end. Brock did that. It's not all bad. It's not all bad. But again, this, if you're saying that, then you're just overlooking what should have been a pick on the very first throw.
Yeah,
You're overlooking a missed wide open out pattern to Jennings. Like,
I don't understand.
Ayuk took a 4-yard route and turned it into 20 something. Like, it's okay. More. It's okay. Like, yeah, it's okay. He didn't play great today. It's fine. He didn't play great.
I agree. Flav, you're right. All quarterbacks do have bad games. This was a bad game. So there really wasn't lipstick on a pig for any of the other stuff. Like, he didn't really give the team a chance to win at the end. Like, it's okay. Like, he played quarterback in a schemed up offense and missed several throws on that drive as well. And like you said, though, Flav, it is okay. He does have the chance to respond. Okay. But let's not like throw him a parade for like playing quasi-functional on wide open throws to get schemed up yak. Like, let's just keep it a buck, because I guarantee you we like kick Jimmy Garoppolo out the door when he would do stuff like that. And I'm just saying, like, it's okay to just admit that this was a clunker. Like, this was a bad game.
Brother Bob responding to my question earlier where he said Purdy was buns, and I said, well, is he buns or did he play like buns? Those are two different things. And he's saying, hey, he played like it. He's not that. And Moody, same thing. Okay, fair. Ethan says Kyle showing once again his late game choices suck. What am I missing, David? Seriously, I'm trying to figure, like,
no.
I feel like I just like didn't watch the same game as everybody else, and that's fine. But what am I missing?
Here's the thing: the late game choices. So they're talking about the 3 and outs. So we're blaming Kyle. So for one of those situations where he got the intentional grounding, Brock Purdy actually waits a beat. He did this actually multiple times in this game where he should have stepped up in the pocket and something he said he struggled with last year. You and I both know, Jesse. We've heard like he had
been doing a much better job of stepping up in the pocket. In fact, praised it. Michael Monahan came on, I think, in the post game or throughout the week at some point and was like, hey, just so you know, like, he's doing much better. And I said, yes, absolutely. That was the biggest thing. The biggest issue I had was he needed to step up in the pocket. He was doing that. Today, I do feel like he was retreating out the backside, which is not ideal.
He's also late processing some of those things. Like Colton McKivitz is not good. I'm comfortable saying that. There were a play though on that play where Colton McKivitz pushes the edge rusher around the pocket. You've got to step up now. Like, you can't just sit. No, like, move up, extend the play. It's like those are the types of things that just compounded some of the other mistakes, right? I know that he can do better, but that you said, Ethan, I don't understand Kyle. Actually, I ragged on Kyle. I said he looks like he's throwing the towel. That's gutless. It was pretty, you could say that's an emotional tweet when he was just kind of like giving up on a 1st and long. I still feel like you should play football on 1st and long. I don't think that you should just give up. But at the end of the game, like, I still don't understand like what he did that was either wildly crazy or like we want him to be aggressive, but he wasn't even like pushing down the field 50 yards. It was like you just put the ball in the quarterback's hands. The quarterback missed throws. How is that Kyle's fault?
Yeah. I wanted the ball at the end. Pissed at Kyle. Not gonna lie. I don't. Oh, it's Brock. Brock. No. This is a shtick. I get it. I got it. I didn't want to go in again. I got it. I appreciate you. Brother Bob says we're about to see what Moody's mental makeup is now. Yes, absolutely we are. That is something that is looming. Andrew says Moody missed way too many field goals. This was tough, messy game, but you need your kicker to make some of those. Yeah. Well, he missed 2. The first one, I don't put on him. The second one, absolutely, he had to make. Yes. What's up, Brian? He says O-line performance doesn't bode well for 12-3. No, and I assume 12-3 is the Eagles game is where you're going. So there you go. Flav says I think if Debo and CMC are out next week, the weather good versus a med D, Purdy will be fine. I agree with that. In order to win versus a top D, we need those guys. Yes, I agree with you. Yes, couldn't agree more. Actually, Flav.
No, they weren't playing well. They weren't playing well with them.
No, not today. But what? weather. I see what he's saying. He's basically saying weather, good D. You don't have them. You really
Completely.
should. Yeah. Kent says people need to chill a bit here. Cleveland's D line is insanely good and in Brock's face every single play. Also, refs screwed us and go get gold. Hold on a second, Kent. I like the way you started, right? Where you said people need to chill, and then you ended it with get rid of our kicker.
Yeah.
I feel like you're conflicted in what you're actually feeling, Kent.
I think other people need to realize that quarterbacks there are other teams out there. Like, by the way, Brock fared well against blitzes against Wink Martindale.
Well, that's what we talked about, right? Like he was getting all the credit in the world against the Giants, and the Dolphins is like, oh, pressure in his face, he gets better. Well, okay, you had pressure in your face today, and it wasn't better, unfortunately.
He did not extend plays today. Like that never really happened.
This was the first time that I felt like a defense actually limited his quickness a little bit, right?
Yeah. Well, he multiple times where he got nervous, like on that first and 25 back in the shadow of his end zone. I mean, you look back on that, he kind of panicked. I think he slides down at the line of scrimmage just so he doesn't get leveled. But like at the time, there was still I just feel like he got out of sorts from almost I think his head was in the wrong spot. Yeah,
it happens. It happens, man. He'll be fine. Ethan says refs were in the Vegas payroll today. Yeah, there was a lot of things going into this game. Keith says Brock showed me something. Terrible game, but in the last 2 minutes when it mattered, he showed up. Bad games happen. No reason to panic. Relax. I disagree. I don't think he showed up the way that other people should say he did.
He threw a ball.
That's fine.
He didn't show
that's
up.
fine. But I'm with you in saying I'm not going to panic and he's going to be fine. I think both things can be true. I don't think he showed up, and I also think that he's going to be fine, and it's okay. Like I think that's okay to say. Cryptic says, "What do you think the Browns did that the Giants Cowboys couldn't muster? Giants straight up blitzed them, and Dallas was the best defense last week." There's a few things. I think one thing we have not seen yet against the 49ers offense is a defense that can consistently get home with 4 without having to blitz and then allow to play coverage on the back end. Dallas was not getting home consistently last week. Cleveland was, and they were doing it with 4. And then, oh, by the way, they have a very good secondary that can hold their own for 3-4 seconds at a time. Most secondaries can't do that in the NFL all the way across the board. Well, they can. And so I think when you add in a good secondary with a team that can get home with 4, that is different than sending 6-7 to get home, because something's going to be open somewhere. But if you can get home with 4, it puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback in the offense to make quick, decisive decisions. And unfortunately, today, it just didn't go great for him. So really pissed off. Brother Bobby's back. This is great. CMC is the clear engine and MVP to our offense, obviously. Yeah, I would say after today, that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
808 Niner says the D can't stop the run. If teams commit to running, we lose. The D line just gave up big holes trying to rush the passer. Yeah, there were times that they were able to run the ball, which, goes back to the preseason. Bro, Kareem Hunt looks thicker than I ever remember him being. I don't remember him being that big. I mean, he was, he was massive. Ryan G. Hensley, what's up, Ryan? He says the D wasn't that great. Hey, fellas. It wasn't, but the D, I mean, they gave 7 points. They basically scored more than the 49ers did the second half.
I mean, they gave up less than 5 yards of play. I just feel like I know that sometimes that's like methodical. The Browns were only 3 for 13 on third down. That's phenomenal third down efficiency for the 49ers defense.
How many points did the Browns score in the second half? They had, what did they have? 7 at halftime?
Looking that up. Yeah. I mean, it was.
So they scored 10. They scored 10
points. They scored 12 points in the
second half.
Yeah. They had 4.
Okay. But the defense also scored 7 points for the 49ers offense. So really they basically gave up 5 points in the second half. All the 49ers offense had to do was figure out how to get 5 freaking points in the second half. And they couldn't.
The only thing the Niners did the first drive that was successful, and the only other touchdown was on the short field from the Demo interception return.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
This offense is like, it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad. Ethan says, going to be at the Vikings game. Do we know where the faithful tailgaters will be located? Do you have any idea, David? I know
don't know,
you're going to be
man.
there.
I'm going to be going. I'm going to be going with the Vikings fan there too. I live here in Minnesota. Bought those tickets, my buddy, as a gift. So, and I know there's some other guys there too. So, yeah, I have no clue about that, but maybe we'll drum something up on Twitter.
Hey, there we go. Samir says, too many fans traumatized by Jimmy, it feels like, and overreacting to one bad Purdy game. I'll say this, Samir. I think there's a couple things at play here. Actually, one big thing that potentially could be at play. I do think, and I know that people put me in this category, and I told you that I wouldn't kill him when the eventual bad game happens, because it would, that people were waiting for this so they could say, I told you so. That's what's happening, I think. And so I don't think it's overreacting. I think you do have a group of people that were praying, quote unquote, on his downfall, and they finally got a little glimpse, and they're like, there it is. I told you, this guy sucks. Like, I think that's definitely a play here as well. And
but at the same time,
it's not going to be me.
No, it's not going to be me either. And it hasn't been like he's played really well this year. There's also been earlier games where he was struggling with ball placement. I think that Brock Purdy is one of those guys with our fan base, like, because he's been so elevated in such a story that anytime you even like objectively talk about like in the moment without saying this guy is falling, you're saying, hey, relax. It's like, well, no, we're good. Like, we're not, like, I think he can rebound. I think he will rebound. Right. Yeah. But like, we still have to be able to call a spade a spade. We still have to stop insulating. Yes. I think he's getting insulated from any type of like if this was any other team, if this was your Seahawks, if this was with the Rams, if this were like 49ers fans would be like doing the same thing against them. Yes.
David, that's a great point. If take the 49er helmet, jersey, all that away. If you just watched this game from that quarterback and that was the Seahawks or that was another team, what would you say? How would you react? Would you have said, it's fine, he put the team in position at the end? No, you would have piled on. So don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't switch up. Just keep it a buck when it happens. That's all you got to do. And for me, I'm just calling it game by game how I see it. He's been great for most of the season, and I've said as much, and I've heaped on praise. This game wasn't great, and so I'm going to say as much. But I'm not going to make a definitive statement and say, this now proves he's trash, or he's not. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Jesus says, I'm wondering what was the logic behind kicking the ball on third down. David and I actually talked about this. So at first they spiked the ball and I was like, what are they doing? Kneel it, get it down to 3 seconds and go. What you're doing there, and I actually liked it in hindsight, and I told David this, is that if you have a bobbled snap, if it's fourth down, game's over. If you had 3 seconds left, game's over. If something happens crazy, you can still fall on the ball, call a timeout, and get another kickoff on fourth down. That's why you do that. So it is especially when in a crazy weird game where you know what I mean? Like, that was the right call right there to do that.
And Jesse and I were watching the game too live together at the end, and I said, you don't want to run a play and have somebody fumble, right? Yes. Because it'd be one thing if this were like a 55-yard attempt that they were right. Now then I'm like, hey, by all means run another play, like try to get close. Yeah. We're talking about a 41-yarder. That's a chip shot for NFL kickers, guys. Like, that's barely longer than an extra point. It really is. Yeah. Like, that, good weather conditions, no wind, dry ball. That's got to be a make, honestly, 9 times out of 10. And he got the 1 out of 10.
Yeah, for sure. Daryl says Purdy is really good from learning from his mistakes. I agree. Mm-hmm. He's going to process this game, and he will not let it happen again. All right, I'm with you.
I'm with
Brock
you.
Purdy is really good. He has been playing very good, and I'm not going to panic after a game. It was a bad game, and I will call it that. It's nothing more or nothing less in this moment.
So here's the thing, though. We all try to predict the future with certain things and prognostications at the beginning of the year. All I ask fans to do is I think he's going to respond well as well. I think he's shown as a guy that will remedy his mistakes and learn from them. Yeah. I do believe that. I don't completely know it, but I do believe it. So in the moment, though, what we can talk about is what has happened and what was the standard of play today. And I think that's where I think we can all argue that if the standard of play today were to go forward, then you're going to have
Oh, yes, of course. If you have back to back, or because the sample size is still so small, and I said this after like game 3, I was like, if you have 2 or 3 bad games in a row, like all of a sudden the whole thought on Brock Purdy shifts because it's such a small sample size that you really are kind of living week to week, or a lot of people are living week to week with their thoughts on who he is or who he's not. So one bad game, not a big deal. 2 or 3 in a row, it's like, okay, like what is this who he is? Like, what are we talking? So just there's no reason to panic.
No.
Ethan says that's a funny coincidence. I'm going to the game with my stepdad, who's a Vikings fan. We live in New Mexico, so it will be a long travel, but very excited. Have a lot of fun, man. Enjoy yourself. Should be a blast. Black Suburban says, so rain negatively affects the QB's performance is normal all of a sudden. In week 1 versus Chicago in a monsoon, the rain was called a poor excuse for the numbers. Mm-hmm. And this is what I said earlier, Black Suburban, is that whatever your stance was in that time, just be consistent.
Yeah.
For me, I said that weather was an issue. And so I gladly said the same thing in the first half today. Now, in the second half, that was not the issue because the weather stopped. In the first half,
worse.
And he did. He played worse, right? Which
in good conditions.
In good conditions. I agree with that. But in the first half, and I tweeted it out, I said, whatever you thought then, think now. For me, I thought weather was an issue then. So I gave Brock grace when the weather was an issue today. If you didn't then don't today. You can't. Like, that's just not the way it works. Unless you go back on everything that you thought. And then really pissed off, Brother Bob says, not happy that BP played like buns. He's my quarterback, but bleh. Yeah, I hear you. It wasn't a great game. I'm not happy with the loss at all. Final topic before we get out of here. Do you think that this, I'll change it. I'll just flat out ask you, do you think that this can be good long-term? Injuries aside, if everybody comes back healthy, this loss week 5 can be a good thing long-term for this team?
Yes. I think that if I were really going to silver line it and like come up and be an excuse, just a litany of excuses, I'd also say, yeah, you lose Debo and CMC relatively early in the game. It's going to be a slog against a good defense anyway. I don't think the conditions were that bad. I think sometimes clunkers happen. The Niners won the Super Bowl in '94 and lost 40-8 to the Eagles, and we all know that, right? Went 3-2, like, oh my God, what's going to happen? They finished 13-3. I think that, yeah, they absolutely can rebound from this. They played much worse games in the last several years and been a Super Bowl contender. So I do think that's good. But where this is bad is if these injuries linger. I think these injuries could be significant. I'm glad Trent Williams came back. I hope that's not something that could be like retweakable. But yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm a little nervous about the uncertainty with what CMC. Debo, I love Debo, but this offense can run without
CMC.
Debo. We've seen that happen.
Yeah.
Without CMC and then without Debo, without CMC, I need Debo, right? I need Debo to be the wide back. And so then that's Debo's loss is really big, right? Make no mistake. I love Brandon Ayuk. And actually, he did drop a big play today. But also, he had 10 targets. He caught 4 of them. One of them, the other ones he dropped. The other ones where he kind of touched his hands were really bad placement. And the other ones Ayuk didn't even have a chance at. The balls were sailed over his head, right? Ayuk can only do so much by himself without those other weapons drawing attention away from him. And so if Kittle's only going to get 1 target today for 1 yard. Okay, guys. I mean, like that, Kittle's going to have to figure out a way to step up. They've got to stop having him be, changing diapers for Colton McKivitz. Like they're going to have him out there and be a weapon, or you're hamstringing this team.
Yeah, I mean the crazy thing is I don't know what the snap count was today, but going into this week, he really wasn't at all. I mean, most of his snaps, he was actually running routes. He just hadn't done much. Now, last week he broke out. This week, I will have to go back and watch and figure out if he was kind of attached at the hip more often. Maybe that was the case. Not sure. I think Jason brings up a really good point here, and I tend to agree. I think that long term, that kind of taking the pressure off of the undefeated and this and that and MVP this and all that stuff is like, okay, it's okay. We can take a breath. We lost. Also, maybe we're not everything that we thought we were. Back to the drawing board. Everybody, not just, this is not a Brock Purdy thing only. Everybody needs to go back and figure out how they can get better and where they messed up. So I think long term it can be great. However, Jason brings up a good point. Not if it costs us home field. That's why that Philly game will most likely be very, very important. And the number one seed very well could be on the line in that one single game right there.
Philly right now is going into New York without, again, they don't have Aaron Rodgers, but that Jets defense is, well, they're also missing Sauce Gardner today, to be fair. But they're taking care of business. They're dominating.
Well, the Eagles have a lot of people out as well today, from what I remember. They have like 3 starters out on defense. They have a couple guys out on offense. So, you know, injuries happen.
The Browns are starting PJ Walker. All due respect. We haven't even talked about that. Like, they were playing their third string quarterback. And I still think the defense played well enough. Like, we got to, I'm sorry, like, so good or bad long term?
Well, yeah, actually, you know what? The game was so long and so many things happened that I completely forgot that the 49ers were up 7-0 and then picked off PJ Walker and was in good position.
In field goal range.
Yeah, good position to put up points and didn't score.
Punted.
Like that, they punted. So that is one of those drives early in the game. You know, yes, there were things that happened, but you got to score there.
That wasn't the punt. That was the missed 54-yard field goal.
Oh, was it the missed 54? Yeah. Okay, either way, you got to put up points there. You know, you have to find out a way to put up points there.
There was a 3rd and long situation right before the field goal, and instead of trying to get a little bit of chunk where you think they're probably going to like protect from, you know, a big play, they just did a play action kind of delayed handoff to Debo, and the defense swarmed in. They had almost 9 in the box, and so that put that Moody in that situation for the long one. Yeah, that was huge. But hey, like the bottom line is the Niners shit the bed in every single way on offense almost imaginable. And the run game, by the way, has not been going. Christian McCaffrey, I think, averaged like 3.9 yards a carry. He averaged 2.7 last week. People are starting to stack that box again. And Brock made him pay last game when all the weapons. Today, that wasn't the case. And I'm telling you, they're going to keep doing this. And if CMC is not there, you know they're going to say, Brock, you better show us, because Brock had bad ball placement all day today, behind throwers. It was what resulted in the pick, right, earlier on. And Greg Newsome should have had it, and that should have sealed the game right away. Like, and JOK, right, had just missed a ball that was like beyond his fingertips on the drive right before that other interception that Purdy actually had. Yeah, it's tough. It's bad. So yeah, good or bad long term. Hopefully it's a motivator, but bad long term if the injuries happen and we lose ground to Philly. We want that number 1 seed.
Absolutely. James says, here's $1.99. Appreciate you. Cryptic says 20-0 is over. Some pressure is lifted, and now the Niners can get back to playing sound football. Every team in the league has struggled. Finn scored 70 and then got humbled. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately for the Eagles, who have not looked the best all year, and we, you know, big bad Niner fans were laughing. We were 5-0 and we're trouncing everybody in the Eagles. We want that game and da-da-da-da-da. All of a sudden now we got humbled and we lost to a team that we shouldn't have. The Eagles haven't played great against some of these bad teams, but they still found a way to win those games.
Yeah, and the Ravens played a Deshaun Watson-less team and beat them 28-3. And have been struggling on offense for weeks, including today, where they couldn't get anything done in the red zone against the Steelers. But I'm sorry, like I think what we're seeing here, the legitimate question is going to have to be asked, and until Purdy responds, is the performance a mirage without CMC? Like, is he actually a quarterback that can put you on his back without all-pro borderline Hall of Fame players at a couple positions? I
would just rather not find out, right? I would rather not find out. Like, I don't care. Like, maybe he is, maybe he's not, but I don't even want to know. I don't care. I don't need the answer to that question this year. Like, just CMC, please be healthy. Yeah. Really pissed off, Brother Bob says, more pissed at Moody. We drafted him big leg. Don't be mad at him. The 49ers overdrafted him. I tried to say that from the beginning, and it had nothing. I thought he would be a good kicker. I still think he'll probably be a good kicker, but if you draft a kicker in the third round, you're overdrafting. You just are. I'm sorry. We drafted him, the big leg, and he missed a 54-yarder. Then he missed a 41-yard game winner. No deep KOs, wasted pick. Oh, no deep kickoffs. Yeah.
And we got other rookie kickers that have been 100% that were 6th round or undrafted. Like, I'm just saying, guys, like we said that. I don't think Moody's going to be horrible, but
no.
Is he worth a 3rd rounder? Hell no, never would be.
He has to be a top 3 kicker in the league for quite some time to make it worth it. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Ryan Mack says we are 5-1. People are acting like we're 1-5.
Who's acting like that?
I hope. Well, I mean, he's a part of the chat. I'm sure that he's, you know what I mean? They're going crazy in there, maybe, or some people on Twitter. Hopefully you didn't get that vibe from us. I think at the end of it all, the message is today sucked. It's over. Moving on. The 49ers should still be fine. They're a supremely talented team. Now let's turn our sight to the health of CMC, more importantly, but also Deebo Samuel. War of attrition kind of played out today. 49ers lost it. It is what it is. They'll be fine. David, as always, thank you for joining me. Chat,
Amen.
There's more football left. Go enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Don't let this ruin your week. The 49ers will be fine. They should win next week on Monday against the Minnesota Vikings. See you on Tuesday. Peace.